this is Diane from Teach Pre-K, and I thought I would do a couple of videos about some behavior issues that might not be huge, but can be super annoying and not fun to deal with. And they are something that preschool teachers deal with all the time. Today, I'm going to talk about whining and how to deal with whining. Whining with your 3 to 5 year olds can be a really common occurrence. You will probably have 1 or 2 kids that's a whiner. They whine. And you've got to look at it from this perspective so you don't get too annoyed and you find some softness in your heart for these little people who are whining, because they just need to learn how not to whine. And how are they going to do that without help? They need help. When a child is first born, they get attention through crying. Progressively, they get more attention through other things like smiling or laughing or learning tricks or just learning something new, showing what they can do. But they will always get the fastest, most immediate results from crying. So, when you're dealing with really young children, they are just coming out of that phase where crying is getting them everything that they want and need. And they're verbal now, so they can use words to have their needs met. But they still will resort mostly to crying if they are upset, frustrated, hungry, cold, tired, etc. So, what whining is, it's kind of that bridge between crying and talking. It is kind of crying while talking, Mrs. Lee, like that. There's a little bit of crying in there. There is a change in the tenor and tone of the voice to get my attention. So, what usually happens at home is the whining gets results. The parents want the whining to stop, so they pay attention to their child. What I try to do in my classroom when I'm confronted with a whiner is I remember that I can't just say, "Can you use your words?" They are using their words. I can't say, "You're using a whiny voice." They don't know what that means unless you have modeled it for them, which is something you can do. But I always feel like sometimes when you model whining, it can almost be mocking. So I try to just, in a gentle way, say to the child that's whining that, "Oh, I can't understand you when you talk that way. Can you use a more slow, grown up kind of voice?" And they kind of get that, the grown up voice. They know that there's something baby in the way they're talking. So usually that will pull them out of it for that instance. And then I will not give them what they want or pay attention to them or honor their requests until they're talking to me. And I'll go, "Oh my gosh, I love it when you do that. Gosh, that big girl voice is amazing. That's the voice that I can hear really, really well." So the next time they come to me and they're, "Mrs. Lee," I will say, "Oh, remember, I can't really understand it when you use that voice. Can you try your big girl voice?" And then I understand. I meet their needs. I help them with their problem solving, just like that. And I promise that over time it will work. It's always done, though, in a positive, kind way. It's not going to work if there's irritation or shaming, because those little feelings that they have are going to be hurt, and we don't want to do that. We're not going to solve any problems by hurting those kids' feelings. Another thing you can do, if you have a lot of whiners in your class, let's say 4 kids that are pretty whiny, and you feel like it's a chronic problem, you can do a little role playing. You can have the child be the teacher, and you could say, if you need something from your teacher, this is the way I want you to ask. Mrs. Lee, I really want to go get my mittens. Instead of, Mrs. Lee, I need my mittens. They all laugh at that. And I'm like, that's not how, I can't even hear that. That sounds so funny to me. So just talk to me. If you just talk to me, I will probably get you what you want. If I can't, I'll tell you why. And you will know the reason that you can't have a snack right now, because it's 5 minutes to snack time. We're all going to have snack in just a little teeny bit. Mrs. Lee, I'm hungry. I don't understand what you're saying. Can you talk to me like slower in a grown-up voice? Make them stop and go, Mrs. Lee, I'm hungry. Oh, I'm kind of hungry too. It is almost snack time. So if you could hang on just for a little bit while we get snacks set up, you're not going to be hungry in just a minute. Done. My class knows that during circle time, it's not okay to get up and get water. It's not that I want them to die of thirst. I just have a rule. When we're in circle time or group time, that is our learning and listening time. After that's done, you can get water any other time of the day. But if they sit there and they're like, Mrs. Lee, I'm thirsty. Did you say something, Susie? I didn't understand that. I just heard some noises. What is it that you need? I'm thirsty, Mrs. Lee. Okay, circle time is almost done. Then you can go get your water. So you got to think, are they bleeding? Are their bones broken? Is someone hurting them, biting them, hitting them? Those things, yes, act fast. But if it's just whining because they might be a little thirsty or a little hungry or a little cold or a little hot, we can get that problem solved quickly. But you can slowly teach those kids that they are going to get the results that they want faster by using their normal talking voice. That is the voice that gets results. And if you show them that over and over and over and over, eventually that child is going to stop whining. And it's just part of maturing. I'm sure they do it at home too. And I'm sure they're hearing from their parents, what? But it might be being reinforced at home. Just make sure you're not reinforcing the behavior that you don't want at school. Another thing that I do is I will just actively ignore someone that's whining. If I know there's not an emergency and they just want the pink scissors or, whatever minor thing is going on, I just ignore it and I'll do other things. And I'm like, wait, I thought I heard some noises. Were you trying to tell me something? And if they whine, I'm like, I can't understand any words. They'll slowly start to just talk. And it isn't being rude if you are being kind. You are letting them know that the voice they're using isn't working with you, because it isn't. I don't want to hear whining. It gets on my nerves. And yes, I work with little kids and I have so much patience. And I have a ton of patience for whining. But I also know that if I help that child get out of their cycle of whining, they are going to have a much more pleasant day at school, a much more pleasant day at home. If I teach them that just asking for things is going to get them what they want, it's going to work, you guys. It's going to work. I promise. It is not going to work necessarily the first time, maybe not the second time, but the kids are going to start understanding how they need to ask a question to get what they want. And preschool and pre-kindergarten, and I would even say on up through kindergarten and first grade, it's about teaching them self-regulation, how to use their words the right way to get what they want. Yelling and screaming isn't going to get them what they want either, and either is whining. And I promise you guys, if you just do those simple things, just a little redirecting with the I don't understand. Let's try this a different way. Let's just try just talking. You might have to model it, so that's a second thing you can do. And just a little active ignoring. And if they're not understanding what they need to do with that active ignoring, and I won't actively ignore if I haven't already told them the right way to talk to me to get what they want. And then you can give them a little reminder, like, I think you're trying to tell me something. I'm hearing some noises, but I don't really understand the words when you talk like that. Can you just talk in a big girl voice, talk in a grown-up voice? I understand that a lot better. So buckle up your patience. Some days it's really, really hard. If you're having a particularly hard day and there's a lot of whining going on, we all know whining is just very annoying, but we do have to remember they are learning in phases, and they are getting out of the crying phase into the learning to use their words phase. And it's quite a long process. When you've had your needs met instantly through crying and whining, it's really hard to break that habit. So be patient. If it's chronic, you might need to use parent-teacher conference time to talk with the parents and ask them how they deal with whining and say, this is what I do at school and I'm seeing some results. Because a lot of times you're getting the results in your classroom, they're going home whining and getting exactly what they want. So sometimes you need to step in and let your experience with little children help the parents. This might be their first child and they might need your help. You are there for them as well as their children, and that's always an important thing to remember. I don't know that I would call a parent to specifically talk about whining, because whining's really typical. It is an easy thing to start resolving on your own in your classroom. None of us enjoy whining. I don't know an adult that thinks whining is charming, but you can be instrumental in helping that child learn that self-regulation and how to use their words in the way that's appropriate for the moment to get what they want. So always make sure you know, though, because some kid might be whining and be gushing blood out of their finger, but they're not crying. So assess the situation before you just jump in and decide it's annoying whining, because sometimes it might be a little bit more. Sometimes there might be some other problems to solve. But I hope that was helpful. I know it's one of the biggest issues that come up with early childhood educators and even parents of preschoolers. It's a tough one, guys, but use some perseverance, use some of that modeling. Always have that smile on your face when they've talked to you and not whined, and tell them how great it was to hear that grown-up voice and how happy you are to help them when they do that. So if you have any other behavior issues that you're dealing with that you'd like some help with, put them in the comments and I will help you. I am going to talk to you a little bit about problem solving and tattling and what I've done in my classroom for years that has always helped. That has just made a really, really big difference and helped turn the children into problem solvers and realize that they've got power, They just don't really understand how to use it yet when they're really little, but they're getting ready. And you can be a huge help on getting them up that next stepping stone for that. So that'll be my next video. But thanks so much for watching. Subscribe if you want. I try to do 2 or 3 videos a week for early childhood educators, and hopefully 1 or 2 will be helpful for you. Thanks so much.